Okay, this video is going to be a short tutorial on how to use the main products form in the Irrigation Outlet Database program. This form will open up automatically as soon as you open up the file. You'll jump right into it. So I'm just going to go over sort of how it works, what you can do with it, and yeah, how to move around in there. So basically, the products form is going to have part number up here that you're working on. And this will be, I guess, dependent on how you have the data set filtered. And by filtered, I mean if you type in a search and you search for a SKU or you search for a description or a vendor, it's going to limit the number of records that you're working with. And you can always tell how many you're working with by looking down here at the very bottom. You'll see it's record 1 of 3051, and we're unfiltered. That means that's everything in the database right now, and there's no filters on there. So if I arrow over, I could arrow over 3051 times as I cycle through these records. In order to filter the list that you're looking at, or to find a specific part number or things like that, you would go to one of these three boxes. Obviously, each one does different things. If you want to search for a specific SKU, you can do that with this top box. So say I wanted to find a 1-inch coupling, type in C10, hit search for SKU, and it will find every item that has C10 in the name. So it doesn't necessarily just find that one particular item. So apparently there's 23 items that have C10 in that order somewhere in their name. So you see this compression coupling, copper tube size. So this is the one we're looking for, but either way, you get the point. It narrows down the the record set, and these back and forth arrows only can take you through what records are being displayed. So you can see down here that it's filtered, and there's 23 records. So if I want to clear that filter and just show everything again, I can click this Clear Filters button right there, and that takes me back to the first record of all the records. So that's basically how you can kind of navigate through and get the records you want them to get to. As far as some of the other buttons, this is create a new record. This would be basically create a new product from scratch with a blank form. Alternatively, you can create a duplicate record, and what you would do with that is, say for example, I wanted to sell or create a product that was 0050 10 pounds. So most of the information is going to be pretty much the same. Even the related items are probably going to be very similar. The description is probably going to be the same or similar, so on and so forth. So if I click duplicate record, which I'll go ahead and do, it's going to copy over every field except for the product ID. Obviously, it doesn't know what part number you want to use for it, but it copied over everything. It copied over the description, all the different pricing stuff, and there's only one on this one, but all the images and lit files would come over as well. So you just give it a part number and change whatever needs changing. Like this may need to be 10 pound or whatever the product name needs to be. But it basically just kind of duplicates the product, and you can edit what you need to edit and go from there. So it saves you a lot of time. I'm going to hit escape to back out of that and go back to the first record. So you can see that the duplicate record button can kind of save you a lot of time if you're making a product or trying to create a product that's similar to another product that already exists. As far as the buttons on the top, you kind of saw how those work with clear filters. This is save records. So if you're making some changes, and I'll just demonstrate that if I put a space there. So I've made a change. I haven't saved the change yet. I can either save it, or I can hit escape to kind of cancel it. I can also click this undo arrow to cancel it as well. But one thing to kind of pay attention to is this little pencil shows up right here if you have made some changes or made some edits that are not saved yet. So in this case, I put a space after the 5 pound there on the part number, which I don't want to keep, but regardless, the pencil shows that there's unsaved changes on this record. So two ways to save it is you can either click save, or you can go to the next record, and that will actually save it for you. Since I don't want to save that change, I'll hit escape, and you can see the pencil is gone and there's no changes to this record. I guess it's sort of also worth noting that if you do make a change to a record, whether by going to the next record or hitting save, it will update this last modified date, which basically is just only there as a filter criteria for when you want to export things. So you can set your export file to export only things that have been edited in the last 10 days or something like that. So moving on from that. If you're unsure exactly what goes in a specific field, I have some kind of caption tips that pop up if you hover over there and then hold your mouse steady for a while. Like this one just main product title, but this one may have a little bit of descriptive text. So this just kind of shows what this is. So it says that shows up under product name on the web page, and we usually use like a manufacturer's part number for that. So that kind of gives you a hint as to what kind of information they're looking for there. All the fields are pretty straightforward. You don't need much information on those. Weight on page, if you hover that, it kind of gives you a good long lengthy description of what that does. But if you forget what weight on page does, it just orders the items within a catalog. So if I've got 10 items in a catalog and I want one to show up before the rest of them, I'll number it higher, and it just goes down from there. So what's really handy with this weight on page though is if you're not sure as you're making one product at a time, you're not sure where it needs to be in relation to other things in the catalog, you can click these binoculars and it will pop up a form that shows everything in that catalog in their weight order. So you can see that we're in this catalog here. It's in chemicals and fertilizers, and here's all the products that are in there, and here's their weight. So this is the order they're going to show up on the website. If the item has more than one catalog, you can click through to see the secondary catalog, the tertiary catalog, and the quaternary catalog, and it'll update this and tell you which catalog you're looking in. But it'll that way you can see where the item's going to show up in each place that it shows up on the website. So that's very handy. So if you click secondary, there's no secondary catalog for this, but you can see it changes the form and you can see what's there. So you can close that, and that helps you determine what the weight needs to be. All right, for the catalogs, they're all on a drop down, so they're limited in the fact that you can't type in something that doesn't exist yet. So you just pick the catalog you want to put it in. If the catalog that you want to put it in is not there, in other words, it's a new product that has a new catalog, for example, you can go down here and click this Edit List Items button at the bottom of the drop down. It'll pull up the catalog form where you can enter a new catalog. The best way to do that is to find a catalog that it's kind of going to go underneath and just kind of copy it, edit what you need to edit up in here, paste it up into here, and go from there. This down here is the actual table that holds all the catalogs, but it's protected where you can't delete anything or add anything or change anything. So feel free to click and drag and copy paste on all that kind of stuff from there. But when you're done, you just click save, and you can close this out. You can close it out either by right clicking and hitting close or hitting the little X over there. So that's it for the catalogs, and the secondary and tertiary and quaternary catalogs work the same way. It's the same list. So basically, just the list prevents you from mistyping a catalog name. Sort of the same thing with related items, except you can't add to the list here. It's just a list, and if you try to put something that's not on the list, it will tell you to put something that is on the list. So you can't put in a part number that doesn't exist. So height, depth, width, all that stuff is pretty straightforward. Description is here. This is actually quote-unquote rich text. So if you wanted to put some HTML in there, for example, if you wanted to embed a video from YouTube, you could paste that HTML code in there, and it'll pull over correctly. But this is what's in the description field. Enabled, special order item, free ship item, those are just yes or no check boxes. If you put it in the special order item, if you check that, it will put it in the special order item catalog, and same thing with free shipping. One thing to note is if you disable an item, it will highlight the part name in red, so it's kind of quickly to see as you're scrolling through which items are enabled versus disabled. I'm going to undo that. And that's pretty much it for the first page here, the product information page. If you tab over to pricing, here's where the pricing gets set. So really, it's going to pull in these things from answers. It's going to pull in the cost, the level 3 dollar amount, and then the level 3 gross margin percentage. This is actually calculated from the data from answers plus this correction factor, if there is a correction factor. So most of them are set to 1. Let's say if it was wire, we would set that to maybe 0.1 or 0.01 or something like that, and that's going to change what's calculated over here. But anyway, if you would like to use level 3 gross margin, you can click this button and it will actually copy level 3 gross margin into the I guess the item selling gross margin price. But basically, you just type in the gross margin number. The price is calculated just so you can see what the price will end up being. That's not actually a field that you can edit. And then the quantity discount is if there's a quantity discount, how much off of the sale price are you taking? And again, this just calculates price for you so you can see what where you're at as far as pricing goes. Quantity discount, if it's checked and you put a number in here, that will be the quantity threshold. Bag and box quantities don't do anything other than kind of keep that information handy so you know, hey, it's 10 in a box, I'll make that the quantity break price. MAT price is just there to as a yes or no checkbox. It doesn't get imported, but it will help us sort by MAT price items so we can make sure we're okay on MAT pricing. So that, like I said, that just groups all those MAT price items together so they're easier to make sure everything's good with. One thing I did add was this price calculator, and say for example, I wanted to sell this for $14.99. So I could go in here and I could type in $14.99, and it's going to calculate exactly what gross margin I need to make that happen. So this is probably not exactly 60.24. It's probably 60.24 and then a whole bunch of other decimals. So what you can do to make that exactly $14.99 is you can click use gross margin percent that's calculated. It'll throw that up in here. I'll do it just so you can see. So it's thrown that in there, so my price will be exactly $14.99. Now granted, if pricing does change in answers, this price will change because the gross margin is what stays the same, not the price itself. So say it went up by $1, then this it's still going to be 60.24 gross margin, so the price is going to obviously change some. I'm going to escape that change because I don't want to make that change. But anyway, like I say, it gets you. It makes the calculation a lot easier if you want to kind of set a price. So that's how you use that. And that's basically it on the pricing. The pricing is a lot more straightforward and simple than it was in the past. So again, it's all just a gross margin number, quantity discount, percent off, and then whether or not it's quantity discount and what that threshold is. Everything else is just kind of calculated to help you determine those things. So the last tab is images and lit spec, and this is all straightforward as well. It's just you type in the file name minus the file extension, just because the formula puts that in there for you. So type in the file name, no periods, no spaces. If you do put a period or a space, like if I type in .jpeg here and try to tab over to the next thing, it'll tell me that can't have space, can't have a file extension. So get rid of that, and then everything's good. So the only other check I've got in here other than that is, for example, if I type in, say test, if I type in test and don't put text in there beside it and try to go to the next record or save it, it's going to tell me, hey, you've got a file out there with no text. So I say okay, and it's going to take me right to it and say throw in some text. So if I put in some text right here, it would let me go through and everything will be fine. I'm not going to make that change. But that is basically it. So again, from kind of as a recap, when you come in here and you want to make a change to an item, you can filter it down by searching for it this way. You can cycle through records with these big arrows here. Once you search for something, if you want to clear that filter, you would click this clear filters button, and that's really all there is to it. The last button is export price exceptions, and I didn't mention this earlier, but this is kind of the last step, so this is why I'm mentioning it last. Once you get pricing and edits and all that good stuff completed when you're working with this form, you want to export those price exceptions, and you want to import those into answers so that when you write up an order, that the answers price matches the online selling price. So all there is to this is you click export price exceptions, and it will save a file in a location formatted the way it needs to be for answers. So where that file goes is it goes under this shared drive web e-commerce access database, and it goes under price exception import folder. And in here there's just a single text file. We just made that. It is formatted correctly. All you have to do is go into answers, go to order processing, go to file maintenance, price exceptions, schedule import, pick IO pricing, perform exception import. You want to browse to that location, so I've already got it here. So it's access database and price exception import. Select that file, and you want to add items that aren't already there. You want to update it to customer 99, and that is it. You hit run import, and it will do its thing. So that process is greatly simplified as well. Close all this. Okay, so that's basically it for the products form. Again, this is where you're going to spend most of your time. So I guess this video is a little longer than most of them, but anyway, hope that's a good working understanding of how everything works. And yep, hope this helps. Thanks.